Welcome, Gunrunner.
Hey everybody, Kieran aka the Laird here, back again with another book review. As promised, I said I had lots of these coming, and I do. I seem to be getting new books all the time, and here is another one. And this one I was really happy to receive because I didn't actually know I was getting it. So somewhat of a surprise when it arrived. I mean, I had already spoken to Brett Weiss. I think that's how you pronounce it. So excuse me if I got that wrong. About the book, and he said he was going to try and get me a copy to review, and said it was up to the publishing company if they were going to send me one. Then one just arrived. I never got an email back or anything to tell me that they were going to send me one, but I was as you can imagine, really pleasantly surprised to receive it in the post, and it was like, oh wow, great. I've got one. So it covers classic home video games. It's part of the series. There's a series of these books. If you haven't seen the previous ones, I'll explain a little bit. So concentrate on an era. So obviously he started off with these books looking at like the Atari 2600 and that era, and he's gone through looking at 8 bits with the Master System, the NES, etc. And now he's working his way up to 16-bit. So now we're looking at classic home video games, 89 to 90. Now, for me, this is like a really important time, and this is the first one of these books I've got, admittedly, but it couldn't have been a better time to be focused on for me personally, because I'd say that if I had to kind of pick my favourite years in gaming, it would be about that period, sort of 89 through to if I picked 5 years, it'd be like 89 to 94. And there's several reasons for that. I mean, firstly, 89 was when I got my Atari ST, and 1990 was when I got my Atari Lynx. So that was a big thing for me because previous to that, I'd only owned a Spectrum, and the Spectrum I shared, it was a family computer. So it was shared with my sister and I shared it with my brother. When I got the Atari ST, that was my computer. I'd bought that myself, and I'd been saving up like paper round money, and I traded in games and stuff like that. And then when I got the Atari Lynx, again, that was saved up my own money. It was my system, and that was especially my system because obviously being a handheld. I mean, the Atari ST, though it was sort of my computer, I still had to kind of share it and let my brother play on it and stuff. But the Atari Lynx was most definitely mine, and I took it everywhere I went, and it's still, I've mentioned it many times before in my videos, but the Lynx is still my favourite system of all time. And also, I mean, and this is the obviously Sega Genesis, Sega Mega Drive as we know it over here. I got a Mega Drive in 1991, so they were good 16-bit years for me. 3 years in a row, I got a new machine, and I still love the Mega Drive. It's my favourite, home console. Plug in the TV style one. If I had to pick between that and the Lynx would just edge it for me and for many ways. But the Mega Drive has some of my all-time favourite games. The Streets of Rage series, and Avengers, Shinobi, and Mercs, and I could go on and on and on. It has that many good games, and this is going to look at quite a few of those in here. And this also has a look at the Neo Geo, a machine I remember very well from back then because we had a cafe near me where me and my friend used to go, and they had a couple of Neo Geos in there with multi game changers, and also our local cinema had an arcade, and in the arcade there they had a couple of Neo Geos with the game changers, so several different games on each. So I'm very, very familiar with the Neo Geo library, and especially even more so to this day, I have a Neo Geo myself, and enjoy it immensely. And then last of all, obviously the TurboGrafx 16, aka the PC Engine, and that's another one of my favourite consoles. I mean, one of my friends, James Cairns, owned a PC Engine import one back in the day when I was at school, and I can always just remember being so blown away by it when he got it. I mean, comparing that to my Spectrum was just, it was night and day. And I've got a TurboGrafx myself, and a nice collection of games, and it's a console I enjoy very much. So lots for me in this book personally, but I think it's going to be the same for a lot of people. Just have a quick look at the back, because I just want to mention as well that that it also has some stuff about the Game Boy and the links in there, because obviously they were around at that same time. So even better for me, obviously, with the links as well. So let's have a look at what it's about. So what we have effectively, so we've got a foreword by Leonard Herman, who everyone knows has done the brilliant Phoenix books. He's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, video game historians. He was a good friend of the legendary Ralph Baer, who obviously produced the very, very first games console, the Magnavox Odyssey. So if you've never read any of Leonard's work, I seriously suggest looking it up. So there's some stuff from him at the beginning, talking about his own sort of memories of those years and how they affected gaming. And then we go into the Neo Geo. So the great thing is it's got a little bit of history there. You'll notice the book is a very sort of traditional paperback book. It is in black and white. So if you're expecting lots of big colour pictures, that's not what this book's about. So therefore, you'll see it goes into the games. So it mentions the games, when they were released, what type of games they were, who published them, who developed them. So it tells you basically everything you need to know about each game. So if you're a collector, this is a simply fantastic book. Not just for referencing what came out and what years, what might be missing for your collection, but also as a guide to what's worth actually buying and picking up. Obviously the Fatal Fury games there, King of the Fighters. With the Neo Geo, we're very much talking one-on-one fighters a lot of the time anyway. Metal Slug games. So it goes through all of those, and then we go into the Sega Genesis, aka the Mega Drive. Obviously, but the book is an American book, so it's focused on using the Genesis name rather than the international name. But it does mention some stuff about that in here. And so we're looking at games that were released, obviously, at that time in the US, as opposed to anywhere else. So it goes through all the Mega Drive games. So Barbie Supermodel, what a classic. And there are pages that are literally just text, but there's obviously pages that show pictures of the games as well. Next one, I can see it through the page there, Buck Rogers Bubsy 2. So obviously, as you expect, the Genesis section is huge. Love that game, Captain America: The Avengers. That's a big favourite of mine. It's a game that I know I shouldn't enjoy as much as I do, if you kind of thing. It's just cracks me up, especially all the speech on it. It's just hilarious. And there's probably the worst game on the Mega Drive, Dark Castle. It's absolutely horrible. Right up there with Rise of the Robots. And let's skip ahead quite a bit more. So we're only up to G there. Oh, Granada. Love Granada. Hellfire. So you can see just how much I mean, I'm skipping ahead massively, and you can see the sort of in-depth, amount of content we have here. Into N, I mean, it just goes on and on and on, seemingly. Robocop 3, that's one game I've never played, but I don't think I'm missing much. Robocop versus Terminator, however, yeah. So into S now. So there's a good old Avengers Shinobi, absolute classic. The first Mega Drive games I picked up back in the day. The Sonic games, Space Harrier 2, Sunset Riders, Smash TV, both games I owned back in the day. Thunder Force games, great shooters. Truxton, another game I owned back in the day, very good. Ultimate Kicks, probably one of my favourite Mega Drive games. It's just so unbelievably addictive. Pretty much at the end there, Zombies Ate My Neighbours into Z. And Zoom, I loved Zoom. I remember picking Zoom up very cheap off a market stall and thinking it looked quite cool. And it's kind of like an Amador, as it says, but I absolutely love it. Really, really good game. Then it goes into TurboGrafx 16. So obviously talks about its origins as the PC Engine in Japan. And great start there. Alien Crush and Blazing Lasers. Blazing Lasers, probably my favourite TurboGrafx game. Absolutely adore that title. Such a good shoot 'em up. So it goes to all of those. Final Lap Twin there, Fantasy Zone, Gallagher 90, all absolute quality titles. Legendary X2, that's great. Splatterhouse, another obviously big favourite of everyone who owns the machine. And then goes into Appendix. So obviously here we've got a nice condensed list. So Neo Geo CD and Sega CD. So it also looks at those as well, not just the cartridge games. Appendix 3, the Sega 32X. TurboGrafx CD, of course. And there we go, Lynx fans, Atari Lynx. So it just gives you like brief descriptions there. So obviously APB, mission-based racer, based on the 1987 Atari arcade game. So there we go. If you wondered, I think we all know what that is. So it's pretty much just a list. You'll notice with this, there's pretty much a list of all the commercial releases. So it's not just focusing on those years, not just focusing on 89 to 90. Because there, for example, you've got Fat Bobby, which is a pretty late release there. So just as an example to use. So Game Boy. So this is a pretty lengthy section when it comes to the Game Boy, because the Game Boy had a huge library. So then we've got here in the glossary, we've got like looking at different terms that is used. So for example, certain genres, so what he calls an arcade game, an adventure game. And then gaming in terms of AI, meaning artificial intelligence, credits, D-pad, these kind of things. So that's all lots of stuff for there. So if there's anything you don't understand, any language you don't understand using the book, you can refer to that at the back. So it really is a very, very comprehensive book. It's getting harder to flick through and show you on the camera. And then obviously bibliography, which is used for reference, and an index, so a very comprehensive index. So that's pretty much that. So if you're into your coffee table books, obviously this isn't what this is. Make that very clear. This is a very in-depth, almost encyclopedic look at games released, in those years, 89 to 90. But if you own any of these machines and you're a collector, then this is probably exactly the kind of book that you want. It's a great, sort of companion is probably the word I'm looking for to any gaming collection. You can always use it as as like a tick list to refer to. And as I say, it's also great for looking at going through and going, I don't have that game. Why don't I have that game? I find sometimes when you're online, you end up kind of flicking from this to that to this, and you kind of end up missing out stuff because you're always flicking from a page to a page. And I think when you've got it concise and all together like this, you're having here, it's actually much easier to reference and much easier to look at. Maybe that's just me, but I find that, and that's why I kind of love things like this. And so if you are a collector, as I say, of any of these, then it's definitely a book that you want to be picking up. I mean, I do think it would have been great if there was a book that did the links. Maybe that's something he'll do. Maybe he'll do a handhelds one that focuses a bit more on, say, the Game Boy, Game Gear, and Lynx, the three sort of the big three of those, and yeah. So I'll link where you can buy this. I think you can get it on places like Amazon. So it's got pretty good distribution. This from the publishers McFarland, and they're sort of professional publishing company. So this wasn't like it was kickstarted or anything. It's part of an existing series, and it's in America especially. It should be easy to pick up. For us in the UK, probably not quite so easy. But I say Amazon exists. I mean, eBay exists. I mean, it's not going to be a hard book to find. But I will stick a couple of links below of where you can buy it. So once again, thank you to the publishing company who sent me this. Thank you to Brett Weiss for organising it for me, and it is a really great and very in-depth book, and well worth picking up. So thank you for watching once again. Please give us a like if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't done so. And I'll see you all again with another video very, very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.